And I have asked Nick, you have heard from him earlier already. Again, Nick is another board member of World Affairs Council. What a fantastic way to elevate that friendship as well. Nick represents SLB Corporation here. And Nick is a triple combat veteran with multiple tours in Afghanistan, Iraq, in the Persian Gulf. He is in the head of social impact at SLB and is a graduate of Harvard Business School. And as I mentioned, World Affairs Council board member. Nick, if you would join me.
It's great to see all faces here today. You know, SLB this year, our theme for this year is the Year of the Ally. And I am proud to be an ally. I'm glad to see faces of men here supporting women. In my previous life as a soldier and going overseas, we never accomplished anything without our allies. You know, when I went to the battlefield, I looked to my left and right and I saw our French allies, our German allies, Italian, Spanish, Britons. So as an ally, I want to leave you with one phrase that you can take with you. I think it kind of speaks to Dr. Young's talk about confidence. Sorry, I'm not sorry. So think about that phrase. I think that will help your confidence. I see too many women apologizing. Stop apologizing. You have nothing to apologize for. I think you have every one of you has a seat at the table, and if you don't, take it. No one's gonna give it to you. So with that, I have the honor of introducing our remarkable panel. I want to start with Auragni Jeanson, Director of Human Resources at SLB. Auragni has a fruitful career in human resources, previously serving as SLB's Asia Pacific HR Director, Southeast Asia HR Director, France HR Director, and HR Manager for the Netherlands and Denmark. She has lived and worked in India, Australia, France, England, the Netherlands, Malaysia, and presently lives in Houston. Maegan Toups, Vice President of Marketing for Airswift Workforce Solutions. An Airswift employee for 13 years, she spearheaded integration for work for the company during the 2 mergers that it's been through since she's joined in 2009. Michaela van Schalkwyk, Vice President of Change Management at Baker Hughes. Michaela is an experienced people developer and strategic thinker. Her previous experience includes appointments as Project Excellence Director at Marathon Oil Corporation, Senior Project Manager at Alex Inani, and Senior Manager for Accenture, where she worked in Kuala Lumpur. And the panel is moderated by Soha Haque, Principal at SH Strategies. Soha has previously held roles as Sales Executive at Compound One Pharmaceuticals and Vice President Corporate Bank at Bank of America, where she managed a portfolio of Fortune 100 top-tier oil and gas clients. Please help me welcoming our panel.
Well, good evening, and I realize I'm the last thing between you and the champagne reception, so the 4 of us. So we'll delve deep and get some pearls of wisdom from these ladies and call it a day. It's been a wonderful, fulfilling day. I think all of you can agree it's been just a phenomenal experience and a wonderful opportunity to meet some really incredible women here. Let's talk about talent development. Strategic HR leaders at many organizations are broadening their definition of the employee experience to include a more extensive look at the total workforce, including larger percentage of contract and contingent labor. The challenges we have seen with employees, as evidenced with the Great Resignation, is that people feel they have lost connectivity to their teams and their organizations. This is driving a more diverse workforce, where the current talent pool is prioritizing a holistic approach to well-being, a culture of belonging, and personal and professional development. In today's esteemed panel, we will discuss key trends that are critical for today's workforce, including how and why organizations should consider getting serious about a total talent management approach in 2023 and beyond, the benefits it can bring to both the employees and the organizations for which they work. In our limited time today, we will look at strategic viewpoints on why the employee experience is more more than just catering to the traditional FTEs. Why anywhere work, remote work, working from Mexico City, Argentina, Venezuela, Nepal, why that's changing the way we think about the way workforces today are structured, and why a total talent management approach includes independent labor, critical for success in today's workforce and economy. An insight from our panelists on what top talent looks like today and what the opportunities are for the future. With that, I'm going to start with Michaela. Can you tell us a little bit about what the top trends you're seeing in the evolving in the human capital space?
So firstly, thank you for having me. I feel so energized and inspired, by all the people and all the talent in the room. So it's a privilege to be here. I think what we've seen is, in the most simplistic terms, is bringing a little bit more of the human back to human capital. And what I mean by that is maybe, summarizing in 3 key points. It is firstly about lifestyle being the new work style. And so it is focused on, most of us in the room are in the energy sector, and we have focused so heavily on HSE in terms of our license to operate. But it's about bringing more of that well-being and that holistic well-being of our people into that same rigor, same thoughtfulness as we've applied to HSE. And then in addition to lifestyle as a work style, it is also about bringing your 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. work self to work. So those interests that you have outside of work, how can we incorporate them into the workplace so that we can be authentic, we can just bring different innovation, different solutions to some of the complex problems that we're trying to solve. I think another key thing that we're focused on is moving away from traditional jobs, but even job structure, and more onto skills. And those are the technical skills that we need to solve some of the complex problems that we face, as well as those soft skills. Really, what is growth mindset, and how do we develop resilience within the organization? That's something that we focused on. And then I think, linked to that is from a leadership perspective, it's how do you balance leading, with your head and your heart? And so bringing a little bit more of that empathy and that heart back into the workplace. And then I think, it's really about, we've just re-looked at our employee value proposition, and through all the research that we did with our current employees, our future, employees that we want to target, employees that have left us and moved on to other organizations, one of the key aspects that came up was really purpose. People want a sense of purpose for individual, for organization, but something bigger than that. And I think, with our focus on sustainability, on ESG, I think through social, we have such an opportunity in terms of how we can bring more of that purpose to our employees and make them feel like they are achieving something broader than just their individual growth or an organization's growth, but really impact on community.
Thank you. That you touch on a lot of points there. The feeling of belonging that we're sensing and that we're hearing from the workforce. Yes. Let me go ahead and ask Auragni, what matters today to most of the employees when it comes to managing their careers? What do you feel and what are you hearing and seeing?
So quite connected to the trends that have just been shared. What we find in surveying our employees, whether they're active in employment or they're deciding to leave the company, the major element is the growth, the ability to grow their career, but also acquire new knowledge and skills throughout their career. Build that agility, and some you may say agility, some others may refer it as independence and market value. I always say the more you give market value to your employees, actually the more they will want to stay with you. So loyalty actually goes by providing that independence, that you feel safe, secure, and you feel you're growing within that company. if you have that sense of belonging and security, you will actually stay. So that investment is absolutely needed. And if that employee was to leave, well, be it. It will nurture an industry. And if there are our women, our talented female, well, be it. It will nurture the economy and the shift in our industry. So first element, growth. The other element, back to resonate on these words, culture, the belonging, the purpose that we provide to our people is more and more important. We have completely reshuffled the cards, the order of our world in the recent years. People are now requiring a vision, a purpose that they can serve beyond just the nature of the company you belong to. So we have to provide that sense of purpose to our people. We have recently actually launched a refresh. We've renovated our culture framework. And the whole intention behind that refresh was to align, to provide a culture that was aligned with the new generational requirements, needs of our people, that could inspire our people, but also that could push progress, not only for our company, but within the industry. Some of those cultural values and behaviors that we have put forward are those that will also influence the change when it comes to gender balance and diversity and inclusion in general. And that, I think, has to be the purpose of any company. And we can see that even competing companies have the same ambition. And that's exactly what we have to aim at. The balanced planet that we should all aim at, whether we are in the energy industry or in banking, is one that will serve the purpose of progress within our society for our girls and boys that we are educating today and that are watching us. We have to build that society purpose rather than just a company purpose. The virtue of that is creating more loyal employees as well, but be it if they leave, they bring that experience somewhere else and they show the example to our other women and our other children and daughters and sisters. I just met somewhere outside Rieke Kennebrew, who was with us a few months back. She decided to leave us, and I was super happy to find her in the conference. And really, the only thing that it triggers is pride. Pride to see how we have a role to play in empowering women wherever they start, wherever they develop and grow. We want to nurture a generation of powerful women and a shift in the power symbols that make space for everyone. And I must say, when I look at the colors also here, the shift and the mix in the representation of women and ethnic minorities. I really think that we have to push for that progress. And today, actually, I just thought it was a very nice symbol. Today is the International Women's Day. In some of the culture that celebrate this, it's also Holi. Holi is the festival of colors. And I just thought that it was a nice message to my colleagues here from SLB that are very diverse, and this room that is incredibly diverse and inspires me. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Very well said. And you're right. I mean, the thing, I think, I'll take a moment to talk about this. I mean, I have two daughters that are entering the workforce, and one has followed in my footsteps and gone into banking, and she's in investment banking working on Wall Street now. And I have to say, I look back in my career 30 years ago, and when I was in banking, and it was a very different world. And so, the things, they don't have that situation where they feel like we'll be at this company for the rest of our lives, we'll be there for 20 or 30 years. She's been there about 2 years, and she got a return offer, and she's like, well, I'm just looking around, and if there's something in private equity, I might move. So it's very different, but it's also really refreshing. And it's still male dominated. I have to say, in her world, it's very male dominated. But there's more. She went to UT Austin, and she went back to Macombs last week, and was there to recruit for women's leadership program. So it's happening, and I think that our panelists here are Auragni and Michaela. You both mentioned the things that are sensing are women that need to have a sense of belonging, and they need to have a sense of purpose. And those are the things that are going to keep our workforce intact and keep the good people there. Let's move on, and let me ask Maegan a little bit about why do talented people leave? What are we seeing out there? How do we address the problems? We talked about the sense of belonging, the sense of feeling like a larger purpose, but what do we do when they leave?
That's a good question. And 3 things come to mind. So the first is probably a phrase most of us have heard at one time or another, that people don't leave jobs, they leave bosses, right? Mm-hmm. So if you feel like you're working at a place where your boss is not supportive, is not mentoring you, not fighting for you, not helping you progress and having your best interests at heart, that can be a really deflating place to be and frustrating place to be, and one of the main reasons why people look to go elsewhere. Another reason would be lack of career progression. So it's really important we show our employees these steps and skills that are necessary to get to that next step in the career ladder. Mm-hmm. And they need to be able to see themselves as being able to move up that ladder, know what skills and competencies are needed, and how you can help support get them there. If they don't see that, again, that's going to be a major reason they want to leave. And in the Global Energy Talent Index report, which is an annual report my company produces for employment trends in the energy industry, the number 1 reason people wanted to relocate is for career progression. Mm-hmm. So, but this can be very costly, can be up to $20,000 per employee. So if we can fix that here, mm-hmm. and give them those opportunities, those clear steps, that's going to help a lot. And the third is compensation and benefits. So the market is back, it is roaring, mm-hmm. It is paying what it was, higher than it was pre-pandemic levels. So it's back to a candidate's market. You can really shop around. If you're not getting the pay that you are happy with or the benefits that you're happy with, you can easily find it elsewhere.
Great, good points. Michaela, I have a question for you. Do the workplace priorities shift depending on the generation? I mean, we've talked a lot about all of us are pretty much in the same, relatively same generational level, but what about the new generation that's coming out, the graduates? Do the workplace priorities shift?
So I think, you spoke about your daughters and you learn from them. I know Heidi in a previous panel spoke about learning, from her teenage daughter. So, I learn from my children. I have a 15-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son. I learn from them every day. Laura spoke about tea. I didn't realize there would be a different definition of tea. But clearly they have their own language, some of the younger generation. And so I think it is important for us to understand the expectations that different generations have in the workplace. And I think it's that fine balance in terms of how do we personalize and how do we, create different policies or different flexibility for those generations. I'll use an example. I think coming out of pandemic, and a lot of organizations have looked at their real estate and looked for opportunities to optimize that. And so certainly our organization, a previous organization I used to be with, we looked at, real estate and looked at, how we could firstly optimize, but then secondly, in terms of how, what expectations do our workforce have in terms of attracting them back into the workplace. And I think this is one example where we did really incorporate those different generations. And so, we studied a lot in terms of colleges and how students are learning. And, that variety and choice of space is important to them. So being able to do certain tasks in a Starbucks or on campus in a coffee shop versus where they need, library time or quiet time. So really looking at what are the different tasks that you have, and then how can you provide the functionality in order for them to execute effectively those tasks. So I think we've seen a huge change in terms of just workplace design, and just incorporating some of those different generations' expectations. But I think that needs to be extended even further in terms of communication styles, in terms of what really drives motivations, and what are different generations looking for in terms of keeping them engaged in the workplace. And so I don't think we've cracked that, but we certainly are looking at that in terms of personalizing but balancing with efficiencies.
Right. And they talk about the upskilling as well, the upskilling and the personal growth and the professional growth and all that. Those are the things that I think we are going to retain. There's a statistic that says it's so much more expensive to hire a new employee, obviously, and get them up to speed on your culture and on the processes of your company, rather than reskilling and maybe moving the employee around within your organization. And then you get that blend of knowledge as well as history as well. So, Auragni, I'll ask you, what are the challenges that you see most organizations facing when it comes to hiring? What are we seeing out there?
So first of all, for now about a year, it has become a very difficult market where our candidates are the passive ones. We are active. We have to be extremely active in reaching out to the entire talent pool to get what we want. So there's a complete shift of power in favor of our talents at the moment, and therefore making it quite challenging for companies to go and find the right profile that we're looking for. The second aspect, and connected to that, is our economies, especially in the developed countries, are booming. The employment market is very stretched at the moment, very tight in most of the OECD countries. So when you look at that unemployment rate in most of those countries, you find that you have to be very intentional and deliberate in the messages you want to put out there and the audience you're targeting. And actually, you have to turn your talent acquisition or your total talent management into a very tailored machine. You have to adapt both your messages to genders, because we are, by definition, sensitive to different messages between genders, but also to cultures, and to the typical skill set that you're looking for. So very tailored, strategic approach for talent acquisition, completely shifting in the favor of our talents. And obviously creating also some tension around making sure we provide the best experience when it comes to onboarding or attracting, so that we also then have a return on investment and keep that loyalty going, so that it's worth it. So very different approach today. And I want to say another challenge, again, connecting to the fact that we're here for the International Women's Day, is one that our female talent pool is being looked at by all companies. Mm-hmm. We are all understanding the imperative for the business and for our company and for our society to bring that diversity to the right level. And I think that consciousness is growing across every company in the market. and I'd say the majors at least. I would hope there's a movement for all the other companies to follow suit. But that obviously creates quite an interest in that qualified female workforce. So fantastic for, you know, all that generation that is following your tracks right now. What I think is an alarm bell that I just want to make sure we keep in mind is we can never consider this as an acquired fact. Statistics, objectives, targets, they're absolutely needed because we will get back to our old habits and forget about the targets very easily. So keeping that target in mind when we recruit, whether it is contractors, contingency workforce, or full-time employees, those targets have to be there to push the entire corporation to go and get the right diversity. And one element of threat as well is when you look at all our needs when it comes to upskilling our companies for the new shape of either digital in banking or IT, or in the energy industry for more skills into sustainability, technology development, or digital. These skill sets, unfortunately today, still attract boys in school. And these are the biggest growth areas in the coming decade. So how are we going to invest to actually actively seek out and actually participate in the development of that youth so that they fill that gap, and that youth meaning balanced gender in that youth? Because right now, still today, those academic development programs are still full with, I'd say, 80% of boys. Yeah. So digital, IT, all those trainings today are still attracting the same trends. And that's our biggest threat for the next decade or 2 decades, is how do we invest proactively to make sure we attract girls into those trainings as well. So it's investing on our part. If we don't find the talents out there that are ready, and it's quite rare today, boys or girls, well, we invest internally. I think that's the next phase, investing heavily in internal training so that we upskill them with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in piggybacking on that main point, I'd asked Maegan, I would say, if retention policies are frequently the most neglected dimension of the talent strategy, how do you create policies that support that in the corporate arena? So it's kind of a second part to what Auragni was talking about.
Yeah, so there are 6 points I'm going to leave you guys with for this one. First, you want to think about the skills that your organization needs to achieve its corporate strategy and its corporate goals. So what are those skills that are going to get you to goal X? And then you want to identify the employees who have those skills. So that's number 2. And find out what motivates them. Conduct stay interviews. Why do you stay here? If you got another job offer, why would you take it? We just and that motivator is going to be different for everyone. So figuring out what motivates them, what keeps them to stay with you. Third would be provide opportunities for career growth and development. And something that we do at Airswift that I think is really good at achieving this goal is we have what we call a global leadership team. And this is about 15 people in our senior leadership who are up and coming leaders, and they work together to achieve goals that the organization wants to achieve. They get to work with our operating board, and this is a rotation. It's a mix of men and women, it's a mix of geographies, and it really gives them a platform that they might not receive otherwise. And several members of that global leadership team have gone on to be promoted to the ops board or to do great things that they wouldn't have otherwise had an opportunity for. Number 4 is provide competitive compensation and benefits, and there's tools like salary.com that are great to analyze, are you paying close to what the market is paying, above, below, medium, and it has good global data where you can input and get those figures. The 5th would be create a positive work environment. So we kind of touched on this, and like belonging and making feel that they're part of something bigger. So this might include something like an employee recognition program or a wellness initiative. We use a peer-to-peer recognition platform called Achievers, and you can just shout out to employees for doing a good job or for doing something that exemplifies your core values. You can celebrate anniversaries, promotions, all of that. So that's a really fun way. It's kind of like a social media platform, but just for that, so employees feel valued. And then for wellness initiatives, something competitive maybe. We do a Fit to Be Cancer Free every year, where it's a 3-week employee challenge where you're trying to get the most steps or the most miles, and the competition's fierce, but all of it is to raise awareness of cancer, and that one of the main preventative measures you can take is to have a healthy lifestyle. And that's one of our more popular things that we do, and people look forward to that. And then the last part would be monitor these things and then adjust. Is it working? Is it not working? What would we say is a success or not?
Well, thank you. I think that as you heard from this evening here, sitting with these panelists here, there's a lot of work and a lot of investment that needs to be done as far as hiring and retaining and ensuring that our talent pool is the best that we can have in our organizations. I think that, I know that we have just a couple of minutes left. I wanted to just leave it, open it up if there's any other last minute comments that any of you would like to say or share. I know it's been a wonderful afternoon, but I think if we, with leadership and empowerment and achievement and diversity, if we can select the next level and the next set of employees and talent individuals for our organizations, I think we'll be set for success. I think that this is a huge avenue and a huge area and focus that we need to put our efforts into. But any other thoughts that you have?
I just wanted to share an emotion when I came into the room. You don't realize until you're in a room full of women that it feels good. I think most of us quite, I'd say, singled out, or maybe a couple in a team. I just felt confident, surrounded by so many women around me, and just with so much interesting, comments, vibes. I think it really deserves a day. I was just thinking, and I had an illustration in my mind thinking that the entire world right now is celebrating women across the world. It's quite amazing if you think about it. So just congratulations to everyone.
Well,
and keep up with it.
What a way to celebrate International Women's Day, and thank you to the World Affairs Council for even putting this together. I think it has been a phenomenal day. The only problem is I wish it wasn't just one day of a year. Women need to be celebrated. We need to celebrate every day. Thank you.